Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Hope you guys are all well. My name is Louis Mendes, and joining me this week as we look back at the EFL Cup defeat against Birmingham City and ahead, of course, to our first league game at the Valley this season. First up, top right, Lewis Cat. How you doing, Lou?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Buzzing to be back in SC7 for some league action on Saturday.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I actually am. It was nice being there Tuesday, to be fair, and for the pre-season game. Never a dull moment at the Valley. It's always nice to be back, especially when the sun's shining. So yeah, looking forward to getting back there Saturday and feeling a league atmosphere, seeing it a bit more full again as well.
Yeah, London derby as well, of course, against Leyton Orient. Another man who will be enjoying that fixture down the bottom of the screen there is Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. It's my boy's first league game, so we're really excited.
What position does he play? Is he a goalkeeper?
No. Yeah, they do think if they get there early enough, they will play, but no.
Excellent stuff. So, as I said on this evening's show, we'll look back at the game against Birmingham. We're going to hear, of course, from the Alex boss, Nathan Jones, and not just on the game against Birmingham. I did ask him on Tuesday about the future of Terry Taylor as well, of course, not involved in the squad on Tuesday. So we'll hear that. You may have seen some of the quotes earlier on today. Then, of course, we'll look ahead to the game with the O's. We're going to be joined by BBC Radio London legend Dave Victor, who's the Orient commentator and reporter. He's the font of all knowledge when it comes to the O's. So look forward to hearing from him. We'll hear from Nathan Jones. We're going to head to the game as well. We'll discuss who we think should be starting, any changes we'd like to see, how we need to approach the game, all that sort of stuff. Good evening to everyone joining us live in the YouTube chat as well. Sam Cutts was first one in there. He says, good evening all. Hell let loose is hoping that my roof has been fixed. Not yet, but it will be. Ray's in there. Anthony, Andrew, CJ, Paul, Rufus, Andrew is there. Dean, Lucas is here all the way from Brazil, and Paul as well. Good evening to you all. Let us know what you made of Tuesday's game against Birmingham City. Anything that concerned you from the performance, and any of the positive aspects of the performance as well, because there was plenty of both really. I'm sure anyone who saw the game would say there were good bits and bad bits to it, which we will discuss. And yeah, let us know how you're feeling ahead of the Orient game. Any changes you'd like to see as well. We haven't got the highlights from Tuesday because the recording failed, Lewis. So we'll dive straight into it. So there's 1-0 defeat. Obviously, missed a penalty early on with Tyrese Campbell being denied by Ryan Allsop. We had some half chances, some chances on the edge of the box in the opening 20, but then it's half an hour in, got beaten by an absolute stormer from Brandon Keller from outside the area, and then after that it was quite difficult. Even when Birmingham went down to 10, perhaps didn't create as much as we would have hoped for.
No, you're right. It was a little bit frustrating because I thought in the first half hour especially, and I think Nathan said that, is that I thought we were pretty much matched for them. I mean, this is a side that spent a lot of money in the window, brought in some real high quality players, and we were really competitive and I thought a good matchup for them. I thought our press was very good. I thought we were aggressive and we were putting their back line under a bit of pressure. I thought that Allsop, Sanderson, they looked a little bit uncomfortable playing out from the back, and it looked like TC and Dan Carney were putting that pressure on to put them into difficult situations. And a few times that did pay off, and a few times I thought Birmingham played out quite nicely. So I think the quality was there for all to see of the Birmingham side. And I think sometimes in games like that, whilst they did have a lot of the ball and scored the screamer, I didn't really think they created a huge amount that was clear cut. And I mean, I still believe it was a fairly good match, a fairly good matchup, and we weren't a million miles behind them. And when you consider financially how far we are behind on the pitch, it's a real good marker for where we are, and I suppose where we've come, given that last season was so disappointing, and we're now coming up against the runaway league leaders, if you like, or the expected runaway league leaders, and giving them a real good game. So look, I think the thing for me is I was a bit disappointed we didn't create enough. I think we lack creativity in midfield a little bit. I think there are times when we're playing the formation that we play, we leave ourselves quite exposed. And I think Birmingham found it quite easy to play through the middle of us, especially through the likes of Roberts, etc. So there's maybe some areas there I feel we need to improve. But look, overall, we were beaten by a screamer. We missed a penalty. It could quite easily have gone to a 1-1 and a penalty shootout. Given that, given the penalty that did get taken, maybe wouldn't have been overly confident in winning that shootout. But overall, I'm not too disappointed. We're never going to win that cup anyway, and it sounds a defeatist attitude, but I'm not overly bothered about exiting the cup at this stage. For me, the most important thing is the league.
Well, we're definitely not going to win it now with that attitude, Lewis. I mean, all hell let loose says TC's penalty was awful. I guess maybe we could start with the penalty because it was our best chance of the game. Mark, it wasn't a very good one from Tyrese. You know, he's looking to have a positive season in a new position. I thought he, through illness, struggled a little bit on Saturday, but we saw in pre-season how sort of up for it he looked and how good he has been under Nathan since he's come in. And I still expect him to go on and have a reasonably decent season. But that certainly wasn't his best moment, the penalty on Tuesday night.
No, I mean, he probably was the standout from pre-season. Head down, good shots. When he got the penalty, there was a school of thought some people don't like the player who's been fouled to take it. And I would have liked, Kanu to have taken it off of him and said, right, I'm taking it. And it does beg, was there a nominated penalty taker for when it happened? Because I wouldn't have thought it would have been Campbell. And he tickled it towards goal. I mean, to be quite honest, Allsop could have stopped, done his laces up, then picked the ball up. But, like Lewis says, the first half hour was positive and we had chances, especially sort of like from midfield, were very quick to get into the box to support. With Campbell, you're right, because it is a slightly new position. Whether he would work best on the left of a three as opposed to playing off someone, because I did think sometimes him and Kanu were just a little too far apart. So there wasn't that kind of communication going on between them. There were plenty of positives. I'm agreeing with everyone in the chat. It was just saying it's a creative midfielder that's really stuck out from that game, that we didn't have anyone in the middle who was going to say, right, I'm going to control this game. We got balls out, but the crossing was terrible. I mean, most of the crosses went into the south stand in that half. And, it was thinking, who are you aiming at? Kanu's not bad in the air. Campbell is not going to win anything. So I didn't know whether we were just hurrying that last decision. I mean, it was nice to not keep passing it backwards. So it's good to see a more attacking brand, but there's got to be something at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned crossing in particular. I mean, I know I've said this a lot, perhaps for the end of last season and going forward at the start of this season, that I think the reason that Edwards is in over Small is probably defensively, but obviously going forward, Small takes the ball up the pitch really well, but then it's that final bit, and I think we saw he struggled a bit with that on Tuesday night. But that's one aspect of where perhaps going forward we weren't quite doing what we wanted to do. I mean, we'll hear what Nathan Jones says when I sort of speak about a lack of a chance creation and taking them when they did come. I think he wanted to say, well, we did have some chances in the first part of the game, which we certainly did. Luke Berry had a couple of shots from outside the area, but I think as soon as we went a goal down, we may have got into some positions where, right, we should be creating a chance from here on, but we never took that next step to create that chance. So it's early days, Lou. I mean, again, the Wigan game, we won it 1-0, fantastic, didn't create a great deal. On an away game, a difficult opponent, then I guess you can accept that sometimes. And Tuesday night was at home against what will probably be the strongest side in the division. So we've got to take that into account. But that'll be something that I think overall we all want to see us improve upon as the season goes forward. And we're only 2 games into it, but how will that improve? Are the bodies in the building the right ones to do it? Is it just getting used to the way we're playing? Is there positional changes for people? Do we need more people in? How do you think we sort of improve in that world?
I think, as you say, it's definitely early days because we have got the options there. Like we've signed strikers in the window. We've got a Hadmay, and we haven't seen Godden yet in terms of competitive action because of an injury. So hopefully he comes back soon, because he's somebody at this level that's done it time and time again. As Mark alluded to, TC was very impressive pre-season and without a doubt has improved. And we've got the likes of Kanu and Ike, Leeburn, all to add to those options when Leeburn and Chucks obviously have their fitness boundaries at the moment to get through. But I think it's going to be something we want to improve on because we've got that many attacking options in terms of strikers. You don't want to be blunted when you've got that many striking options. So there is going to need to be something addressed in that area, I imagine. But as you say, I think it's difficult to judge it from the Wigan game because I was kind of expecting that to be fairly scrappy because it is a difficult place to go. They play a certain way. They looked quite good going forward. Didn't really create anything again, bar those chances that we cleared with Edwards and Ramsey. Didn't create anything overly threatening, and we took our chance. We didn't take our chance on Tuesday. That for me is the difference. Obviously, I'd like us to create more, especially at home. I'd like us to look a little bit more threatening and create more chances. But we were playing in a cup competition. We weren't playing our first 11, and we were playing the favourites in the league. So I think it's going to be an area we want to address. If we get a few more games down and we're still not putting the chances away, then that's when I'll start being worried. But obviously there comes a deadline to it because the window shuts in 2 or 3 weeks, and you're not going to want to wait too long and then think you have an issue and you can't address it until January. So I imagine they're looking in the background about how we can improve by whether it's bringing in bodies or looking at positional areas for other players, etc. But I think ultimately there's obviously a lot of players here at the moment, and some of those are going to need to go before we bring people in. So it's clear some of those players maybe don't have a future here. So the quicker that gets done, the better. So we can bring in the players that Nathan wants to bring in to try and strengthen those areas. Because once we get moving and there's that understanding, that fluidity between our play and the system is working and everyone's buying into it, then there are players there that are capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. So it's early days. So I think we're going to have to just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Ray is saying he wants to see a more creative performance against Leyton Orient. He said he'd like to see Berry in for Anderson, but other than that, the same side as against Wigan. Andrew wants to see a creative midfielder in this transfer window. Rufus says he can't wait for the first home league game of the season. Anthony said hoping for another league win. He's an optimistic Irish addict. Dean saying who's nicked Mark's Christmas tree. Well, you are going to get comments like that, Mark, if you leave your Christmas tree up until about June every year. But it's not there today, happily. Paul's liking Mark's shirt as well. Oh, Rufus says apparently the Blackwall Tunnel's closed on southbound on Saturday. It's a nightmare for that fixture because it's literally like a 15-minute drive from Leyton Orient otherwise. A lot of people talk about the creativity in midfield. Spam says he thinks that Luke Berry didn't look fit. I mean, he certainly started the game very fast against Birmingham City. But that's it. I mean, there are a few people making this point, and I think it's a very good point. Harry is saying biggest spenders in the league, and they only managed to score a screamer against us. Our defence is definitely strengthened. I think they had, I think he said 7 shots on target, but I don't remember Will Mannion making like some stunning saves. I feel like they were probably all pretty routine, and I did note in my report on the SLP website that I thought that, again, we looked like we weren't getting played through too much, and when there were chances, I think was it Lloyd Jones made a good block in the second half, or someone certainly did. There was bodies in the way again, which was good to see, Mark. And I do feel like we've headed in the right direction on that front. I don't know what you've made of it so far.
Yeah, true. I mean, look, Birmingham also made changes as well. I mean, they didn't. But I think if that had been a league game, Alfie would have started. I mean, Djukovic is a really good striker. I mean, he was kept quiet, which was good for us. So saying that Birmingham had impressed me, it wasn't a full strength Birmingham, but we hadn't played our team who had played at Wigan. So you've got to sort of like balance it up with that. And I probably disagree with Ray when he was saying that he would drop Anderson. I feel sorry for Croy. Because I like him as a player, and if you watch him, he gets into some really good positions and opens himself up for the ball. And for some reason, the players in midfield, and it happened last season as well. I remember commenting on then that they don't tend to trust him with the ball, which I think is a bit odd. I mean, I like Berry. I'd have him in the start for Coventry, I think, because I think Anderson's athletic and gets himself around. But I think the rest of the midfield should trust him a bit more. But it's difficult because when I saw that stat, I couldn't remember them having that many shots, as you say. I mean, apart from the screamer, I think it was just basically a catching practice for Mannion. One's gone past his post, which I think was the one which was deflected. But I don't think at any time did I feel oh, this could have been 2-3, 4-0 to Birmingham. So it's quite hard to judge. I mean, if you'd said to me at the start, take 3 points and we're going to lose to Birmingham, yeah, I'd have taken that, because for me, the 3 points first day of a season is way more important than this. Like I say, yes, we're not going to win it, and to go out to Birmingham isn't the worst. If we'd gone out to a League Two side, I think it'd have been a lot more doom and gloom. It's just keeping a sense of perspective at this start of a season. It's quite hard to do because we're all excited about the start of the season. We're all excited about the first home game. We're all excited about seeing new players who we'd only seen online and seeing them in a Charlton shirt for the first time. I mean, from the Wigan game, Edwards really impressed me at left back, and it's getting that balance right, which I'm sure they've been working on this week. And if Godden's back, I know there's no time frame on Lieber, but surely it must be soon for him as well. And like I said, you've got that firepower up front. We've just got to find a way to harness it, because defensively, there's a lot of endeavour. There's a lot of bodies thrown in away. Could Berry have shut down the cross a bit faster? Potentially. But, you've got to give the lad kudos for the strike. So, it's perspective, as we've said before, I think many a time on the show.
Yeah, and Scott Taylor wants to add some of that perspective. He says, look how far we've come since last season. We played, without a doubt, the favourites this year at this at our level, and our rotation and squad depth will be crucial this season. Again, I put it to Nathan, but I just think he made 5 changes, which can sound like a reasonable amount, but there's no one would have looked at that lineup if we put that lineup out against Orient Saturday and gone, oh, that's a weird team. That's all of those players could comfortably start league games. It wouldn't really be a surprise, which for me shows that, I don't know, maybe the squad depth is a little bit stronger this year. Again, in the right direction. How many players did we have last season where if they were to start a league game, particularly if there were ones that maybe came on loan and we hoped they would, but they didn't start very often, and therefore if they were starting, it would look weird. How much of that did we have last season? I don't think we had it so far this season. But yeah, Scott says trusted process, the fluidity will come, but he does think we need another 10 to push Berry or Doherty. Sam's sort of talking about Fraser, saying, I know he hasn't got a squad number, and a lot of people don't want him being included. But in our current squad, would you use him as a holding midfielder? Not at all. I don't think. I mean, if we are an energetic midfield, if that's what we're going to be about with Nathan, aggression, front foot, energy. I don't think Scott Fraser really brings any of those now, and especially if he doesn't really want to be here, if he'd rather go back to Scotland, it's probably best for everyone if he does. Jake says we need at least one hard tackling midfielder. The only ones we have currently are Anderson and Coventry on a good day. What did you make of Anderson of Coventry on Tuesday night, Lewis? Because I've seen very mixed reviews online. Some people saying they thought he had a really good game, some saying they thought he didn't.
It's difficult. I wasn't as impressed with him on Tuesday as I was in the pre-season friendly with Pompey. I think the performances at Wigan and Birmingham were a bit more disappointing, and I don't know whether that's because he was outstanding in that Pompey game, and I was kind of expecting him to kick on. I think with Coventry, I mean, there's clearly a player in there, and he does have the ability to clear up midfield, put in those hard-hitting tackles, and sit and support the back line. But I maybe don't see it enough. The thing that I get frustrated about with Connor the most is that sometimes he just needs to get his head up a bit more and look for the forward pass. I think a lot of the time when he receives the ball, he's often looking to go sideways or backwards. And whether that's the only option he has on, but just that little bit of creativity. When you're looking at Anderson, for a young player even, like he's trying to get the ball forward a lot of the time. And I don't know whether that's because he's maybe a little bit raw, being a bit younger. He kind of just thinks like, right, get the ball up the other end as quick as possible, or that he is just being that bit adventurous. But I'd like to see a little bit of that from Connor. I think that he maybe is a little bit too safe at times and plays it sideways, backwards, and just kind of sits in his position. But look, there's a player in there. We know that the performances can happen because he was good. I think he's had quite a good pre-season overall. But yeah, the Wigan game was cagey for everybody, so I can't really blame him too much on that. But I thought, especially when we were trying to get back into that game on Tuesday, you kind of needed your midfield to push and support the front two. And although that may not be Coventry's job on paper, he can't do that by passing sideways and backwards. He's got to look at ways to contribute from where he's sitting, and that's getting it forward for me.
There was a really good pass from Conor Coventry at Wigan into the channel for Ramsey that sort of played Ramsey into the penalty area when Kane then sort of pulled it back. I think we won a corner off it. And that was like part of what I think Conor potentially has the ability to do if we see more often. And obviously he does sit deeper, so maybe he isn't invited to do that as much now. But yeah, there's it's interesting. There was sort of really mixed reviews. I mean, Shiny Phil said a disappointment was that we didn't push on in the second half after such a good first half, and he said Thierry Small had a nightmare. Second 45. Jake said not sure about Tene Watson. I'll be shocked if he starts ahead of Kane Ramsey, for example, on Saturday. So I think probably the manager shares that view, Jake. Lucas says I think we should have a plan B, a tactical variation for matches we start losing, and then we need to be more offensive. Callum saying it's better to have a solid defence and wait for the attack to click than to have a potent attack with a set of defenders that can't keep the ball out of the net. Fingers crossed the goals will come. Yeah, we certainly tried that last season, didn't we? Having the potent attack and the defenders, and that, it didn't really work overall. Cameron saying he says people demanding a creative number 10, personally not willing to lose a more physical midfielder for that. And then a couple of people talking about Conor Coventry, all hell at loose end. He's not sure what he brings to the side. Joseph said he was disappointed last season, but he had a great pre-season. I expect more for him. I think it's in his tank, but we haven't seen it yet. Right, I'm going to hear now from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. I spoke to him after the game against Birmingham in midweek. We speak about the match, but we also talk about players like Terry Taylor and Zach Mitchell. Terry obviously not involved on Tuesday. Zach Mitchell coming off the bench. This is what the Addicts boss made of Tuesday night. Nathan, defeat in the League Cup this evening. What did you make of your side's performance?
Overall, I'm disappointed because we've lost the game. For 30 minutes, I thought we were truly outstanding. We missed a penalty. We had a number of chances to have taken the lead, and those are the fine margins. They score from 30 yards with a goal that is thoroughly defendable, and that's the difference. I thought we were excellent out of possession. I thought we really went after them. These are a very good side, well coached, got good players. Obviously, you'd imagine by far the biggest budget in terms of, so they're able to have the quality of players. But I think that was probably the only difference really, is just that final third quality. They had one opportunity and took it, and we had a number and didn't.
Is that the disappointment from tonight, that there's probably creating chances and taking them when they came?
Well, we did create chances. I mean, we had the best chance of the game with a penalty. We should have won up, and then we'd be in a different game. But the fact we missed a penalty, and then we've had chances first half. We've had opportunities on the counter where we didn't make the most of it. We've absolutely pushed them to the absolute limit. They've had centre off, possibly could have had 2 sent off. But I'm proud. I'm really proud of the performance. Let's not forget these were a championship side last year, and we were, up until February trying to stay in League One. So I think the improvement is huge.
Yeah, and that start in particular shows the difference that you've made over the summer, I guess.
Well, I think the start, the difference has been since February. I think but now there's a bit more belief, and this will give them belief, because these are expected to walk the league. They're not expected to win the league; they're expected to walk it. So, and the margins here are very, very small between two teams. So it shows that we're in a decent place.
A difficult moment for Tyrese at the start. I don't think I've seen him take a penalty before, but I guess he would have been disappointed.
Well, yeah, he wasn't as disappointed as me, I can promise you that. But he's a learning curve, and I'm glad it's happening in the Cup and not the league, because I'd be very disappointed. And we took the Cup seriously. We wanted to have a good Cup run in terms of that, but we've drawn real difficult opposition and we've narrowly lost. But there's enough in there to say, okay, then we're on the right path.
You made 5 changes today, but I don't think that would have looked out of place as a starting lineup in the league. Does that sort of show the business that you've done this summer? Well,
it shows the business we've done this summer. We still want to do more, because we still need more quality. I mean, we've got 6 20 and under year olds in our squad. We've got a young squad, we've got academy graduates and things there, which is fantastic. I just would like to add a little bit more quality. If we can just add a little bit more quality, then yeah, I mean, you look at them, what they've signed, who they've signed, and so on. And that's what we're competing with at this level. The Boltons and Wrexhams and Huddersfields, we've all, spent a lot of money. We're competing with those, but we're doing it with a real good structure, and I'm really pleased with tonight. Lots of it. I'm disappointed we've lost. I'm disappointed in the manner that we've lost, because I felt, one, we could have been a bit better in possession, and two, we just got to create a little bit more. You know, when we get in situations, we have to have outcomes, and that's what we didn't do. But overall, I think we've had the best chances of the game.
And you think those sort of things will improve as the season
Yeah,
goes on as well?
Will. I know they will. I know they'll improve. We'll get better. We've got better since February. We're a better side. We're a more aggressive side. We came in and we were 19th in the league. We're not now. I think we're 8th in the league. So that's a decent start. We're home now on Saturday, and we have to back this performance up and Saturday's win up with something really positive. And then look, that's the important thing.
Just with the changes you did make, it's interesting the players that don't make it. Still, a lot of fans have been asking about Terry Taylor not involved tonight.
Yeah, well, look, I pick a team, and I pick a bench, and I pick certain things, and that's all we do. So it's just choices, what we need. And people come in, we're giving people opportunities. Thought Zach Mitchell was excellent when he came on. He's aggressive, he's front-footed, he's really mobile. So these people we just want to take forward. But we've used the squad. I've used the squad again tonight, and it showed that we've had the level of performance that's required at this level. And as I said, we've played, arguably the best team in our league, or one of the best teams in our league, and the margins have been very small.
Just on Tyrone, is he one that could move on to make space elsewhere in the squad?
Well, look, we've got one or two that we don't feel are going to play regularly. So for their careers, if they want to move on, they can. If not, then look, we'll use them. But at this point in time, there's a few in the squad that are available that to go and we don't want them. They are available to go and get regular football. And if we can do that, then it gives us opportunity to strengthen even further. And
finally, you mentioned Zach. They're obviously a massive prospect. He's sort of going to be around it a bit more this season?
I really like him. I think he's versatile. He's aggressive. He's quick. He's mobile. He's brave. That's the type we want. You can do things with them. And if we can't go out and spend £1 million on a centre half and stuff like that, then I like ones that we can really develop, that are blank canvases, and then it's about your coaching and about what you do, and I really like him.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones speaking to myself after the game with Birmingham during the week. Obviously we've spoken in depth about the game, Lewis. We heard his reaction to it there. He sort of spoke about how he felt we created chances, but then he did say, we need to create more at the end. So I think there's an acceptance that's the case. But yeah, Terry Taylor, obviously one that a lot of people have been talking about. Let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. Paul saying he avoided the question like an MP. He gave an answer that sometimes you have to do as a manager, because Terry might not leave. He might still be here, but made it clear that we have players who are available to go out if needs be. And I'd suggest that Terry is certainly one of those. Would you like to see him more involved? Do you think he's not had enough chances, or did he just not do anywhere near enough to impress you when he did have his chances last season, albeit very fleetingly?
That's the thing for me. When I saw him last season, he didn't impress me, but I didn't see him enough to settle. There weren't many people last season that impressed me, so that's not a high bar to be set. But over pre-season, it seemed that he was around a bit more, involved a bit more. He was in the Pompey lineup when we played them, and I thought that might indicate that he'd be in and around the 18s on a match day. So I was quite surprised to see, not so much at Wigan, but definitely on Tuesday, to not see Terry Taylor at least on the bench, especially as he seems to be looking at Teo Eden as a midfield option rather than Taylor. So look, I'd like to have seen him given a bit of a chance, because when he came here, he came with quite a good reputation. He's obviously a young player, but we were sort of sold on dead ball being a speciality of his, and that's somewhere I feel we've lacked, especially last season. But that's an important attribute to have. If you've got someone that can put the ball on a plate for your strikers, then there's your creativity there, or an element of your creativity right there. So look, I think it's difficult. Nathan gives really dignified responses, doesn't he? He doesn't give anything away, but reading between the lines, it seems that it's fairly open that he'll be leaving the football club, which for me is a bit of a shame, because I don't really think he ever got the opportunity because of injury, but also it just maybe feels like that injury's hampered his chance to be part of the plans. But look, he might not go, as you say. There's still a few weeks left of the window, and someone's got to want to come in and take him off of us as well, for the right deal, because I believe we paid a fee for him last year. So you want to see some of that return. But yeah, it's a shame. I'd like to see him given a chance, because I think he's more of an option in midfield than Teo Eden is. And it seems to be that Teo has more of an opportunity in that midfield area at the moment than Terry does, which doesn't quite. Yeah, it wouldn't be the way I'd go, but I'm not a football manager, so what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan likes trying people in slightly different positions, and like I say, we've seen that with Teo this season. I'll put that on my notes. Like, with his energy, I guess that's what Nathan would like to see from him in the midfield. But it's just that quality on the ball, I think, which he struggled with on the left last season and as well this year. All Hell Let Loose says, I'd like to see Terry Taylor sent out on loan until January. I mean, Mark, would you keep him? Would you let him go if it doesn't look like he's going to be involved?
Well, one, it depends if anyone wants him. I'd probably, it's going to sound funny, I'd probably keep him. I don't think we've seen enough of him to make a cast iron judgment one way or the other. And it's deceptive. He's actually a lot taller than you think he is. Because I remember at the Player of the Year and he walked past me. And I thought, well, he's a good 6'1". And I'm thinking in a midfield area, sometimes you need, better threats from corners, better defence at corners. Yeah, we talk about his dead ball situation. I did remember saying at the time, mocking, "Oh, great, we've got someone on to take corners we can't score from," and it seems a bit funny, but I'm sure there is a player there, and we just don't. It seemed if we send him away or he goes off now, and we've not really had enough to judge him by, and we've given a lot of players a lot of time before we've said, you know what. We don't think you're good enough. And this seems like a very rash, quick decision. But obviously, it could be something Nathan's seeing in training. It could be attitude. It could be... I think Nathan's got in mind a certain style of player he wants. And a lot of it comes down to attitude and commitment. And I would say he's probably not seeing that in him, which means... along with Fraser, it's a kind of like your surplus to requirements now, and hence the Eden in midfield, which was a bit of a failed experiment. I think yes, he's quick, but you've got to be able to do something at the end of it. So I'd be tempted to keep him, but I trust Nathan if he's going to say no, let's move him on. I'll go with that because he sees him day to day and knows way more about it than any of us or anyone in the comments.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. Right. Yeah, Scott Taylor says Terry Taylor is good depth for our defensive midfield. Is this like a bit of nepotism again, like we had with Mr. Iceland, like Martin Iceland last season, pretending to be Harry Iceland's dad? Right. Paul said it's unfair pressure on Coventry's shoulders, in his opinion. He came from a Prem team, not a patch on Dobbo, etc., etc. Says he's shown flashes of quality, it will come good. But the club gave him a hospital pass. Callum says, with no one taking Fraser off means we might have to let Taylor go just to free up a place for a player that Jones really wants. Spamfish says you've got to run, track and tackle at full bore to play for Jones. And I think that's part of it. And I also think that's the answer to Andrew's question here about I love Karoy, but Jones seems to rate him a lot higher than some of the others who haven't had a good chance. But he says we don't know what happens in training. But Karoy's got legs, isn't he? Like if he's a higher pressing midfielder, which we sort of seem to rely upon in our system, and it can create chances and it can win the ball high up the pitch, and I think that's why Nathan likes him so much. Just finally, before we go to the break and then turn our attention to Leyton Orient, Zach Mitchell I mentioned there, Lou. Nathan was really full of praise for Zach. We know what sort of potential he's got. Was it EFL Trainee of the Year or whatever it was called a couple of years ago? But yeah, expect to see him involved a bit this year?
Well, it sounds like Nathan Jones is the only person who loves Zach Mitchell more than I do. I've rated him big time since we saw him emerge, didn't we, under Ben Garner that season, and I was impressed with him then. And then we saw him go out on loan last year to Colchester, and I got it early on in the season, but then later on, as we went on and our defence became more and more shambolic, I was surprised that we didn't give him a go. but he's back now. He's obviously had a pre-season, and Nathan is obviously seeing something in him. I thought he was absolutely outstanding when he came on. I think he looked so comfortable, confident on the ball. He was forward pressing. He drove the ball forward. He was comfortable with his passing. He was comfortable under pressure from Alfie May. Like he looked like he didn't look like the youngest kid on the pitch. He looked brilliant, and I think he's got a great future. I think I've seen a few comments about him needing a loan. I don't think that's the answer. I think he's gonna. We've seen players come on so much since Nathan's come to the football club, especially in that age band, like Roy Anderson, like TC. Zach Mitchell is only going to benefit from working with someone like Nathan Jones every day. And yeah, you know what, he might not get as many starts as he likes, might not play as minutes as he'd ideally like to do. But I think in and around that defence, if you lose somebody to an injury, which hopefully we don't, Alex Mitchell's in that slot at the moment. But in terms of rotation and changing a game, I saw a lot more from Zach Mitchell to stake a claim for that position than I did from Reg. So look, I'd like to see him in and around it this year. I was really impressed with him on Tuesday. I think he's got a great attitude. He's a really likable guy. And yeah, if he's going to develop, then where else is it better to develop than here under Nathan Jones, who's got a great record of developing young talent.
Excellent stuff. Right, a couple of quick emails. Steve says, "Hi Louis, great show. Cheers, mate." In the Birmingham post-match, Nathan referred to our improvement as a meteoric rise. He says it's a bit early for that, given that Birmingham had 71 possession and were comfortable for most of the night, even with 10 men. Success this season will depend on turning all the draws from last season into wins, and that's without our captain and top scorer. When we are in the top 3 at Christmas, then you can start calling it a meteoric rise, but he shouldn't kid himself or us. That's from Steve. And then Chris says, cup run is over before it really began. The good news is that Birmingham didn't look anything but average. Zach Mitchell looked good when he came on in first half. We had a good structure and were solid. Second half seemed really poor. We didn't seem to be able to go after the game and failed to create good chances. I know it's just a cup, but the lack of creativity is worrying. Anyways, back to the league and keep up the good work. That's from Chris Hartley. Thank you very much. Right, we're going to have a quick break. When we come back, it's time to turn our attention to Leyton Orient's visit to the Valley on Saturday. We'll be hearing from a bit of a local radio legend.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We've looked back at the cup defeat against Birmingham City. Now it's time to look ahead to Saturday's home league game with Leyton Orient, our first home league game of the campaign, our first London derby of the campaign as well. And who else could we get on to speak about the O's? And of course, the legendary BBC Radio London commentator Dave Victor, who appears to be joining us in a cave or somewhere. How you doing, Dave? All right?
Well, I'm okay. I've had a very difficult afternoon, Louis. I've been out flying a remote control plane with my son, and we lost it. We spent the last 2 hours trying to find it, and we found it, and it was in the middle of the Arlington Reservoir, which has to be over a mile from where we were originally flying it. So we didn't know that it could go that far, and it will never go any further. So I didn't have a chance to get back, so you'll have to excuse me.
No worries. With all the things I was expecting Dave to say there, that was quite far down the list. But Dave, it's absolutely brilliant to have you on. As per always, look forward to seeing you on Saturday. I mean, tell us a little bit about the start to the season so far for the O's. Obviously beaten by Bolton on the opening day, which is absolutely no disgrace. Obviously Bolton a very good team, and then brushed Newport County aside in the League Cup. How are things feeling over there at Brisbane Road?
Well, there were plenty of positives, as Richie Wellen said after the game on Saturday, but it was the difference between the two goalkeepers. Zach Hemming was making his league debut for the O's. He'd been signed on loan from Middlesbrough. He was at fault for both goals, I think it was fair to say, and he was probably at fault on Tuesday night for Newport County's goal as well. At the other end, Bolton Wanderers goalkeeper Nathan Baxter is superb, and we know that, and he produced two excellent saves, both denying Charlie Kelman, who has looked very sharp indeed since returning to the O's. He was with Leyton Orient when we gained promotion as champions from League Two, on loan from Queen's Park Rangers, and he's returned on loan for the season.
Hi, Dave. As you say there, promotion from League Two a few seasons back. Great finish last year. I'd say 11th place, coming straight, up into League One and securing a top half finish. I thought you guys had a great season. What are the O's fans' aspirations for this season? Are you looking to build on that and try and break into that top six, or are you fairly comfortable with just trying to improve a little bit, maybe on 11th place, or do you think top half is where Orient are going to see themselves at the end of this season?
I think the supporters are realistic, and I think they understand when Richie Wellens says this division is much tougher than it was last year. I think that's because of the likes of the money that the sides that have been relegated are spending, and also the deep pockets of those sides that have been promoted, with the probable exception of Crawley. But I also think one of the big changes the division this year is the fact that Reading and Wigan and yourselves, that had so many difficulties, will be so much stronger. So it's going to be a far more competitive division. Leyton Orient, I think, have a young, hungry squad, but it lacks depth. We've talked about the difference between the two teams on Saturday in terms of the goalkeepers. Also, just looked at the bench and those players that came on for Bolton. John McAtee, from just signed from Luton Town, was one of them, and he made such an impact. And the O's at the moment just don't have that depth, but we know Richie Wellens is still hopeful that he can bring in one or two players before the window closes.
Hey, Dave. Question about Richie Wellens, because he's got Orient playing in a certain way. How flexible do you feel he is for changes in a match? Because sometimes managers get to say, a certain way of style of playing and say, right, this is how everyone's going to play. Do you think he's actually flexible enough to change? Because there are a lot of big teams coming down, so you're going to have that flexibility.
He definitely is one of the most intelligent in terms of understanding tactics managers that we've had at Leyton Orient and all the years that I've been following them. He's just got his pro license, and he's just signed a 3-year extension to his contract, which I think is really good news. The difficulty, I don't think, is Richie's ability to change things. It's whether or not he's got the personnel on the bench in order to enable him to do that. Pre-season, we saw the O's play the diamond. That wasn't the case on Saturday. And I think one of the tests that he's got Danajai up front. He was a notable absentee for most of last season, signed from Crewe, but picked up a nasty injury pre-season at Colchester. He's now fit, and we got Charlie Kelman up front. And I think both would want to play in the centre. So one of the sort of difficulties and challenges and problems, but it's a high-end problem, as the chairman, Nigel Travis, would always say, is how you get those two players together. On Tuesday night, we saw Charlie Kelman playing more on a wider right wing, and I think that suited him. But we know that both would prefer to play in the centre.
Well, I mean, one of Richie Wellens' problems last season, of course, was actually remaining in the dugout. How many times did he get sent off in the end, Dave?
We've already had one yellow card this season.
Last season, he was off about three, 4 times.
3 red cards.
Lovely disciplinary record. But he's done such a good job at Orient. One of the interesting parts for Addicts fans ahead of Saturday, of course, is you've got a few of our former players, especially the ones you've signed this summer as well. How have they settled? The likes of Sean Clare and DJ. Sean wasn't my favourite player when he was here. He had a mistake in him, but he was full of energy and he could bring the ball forward. DJ, I had high hopes for, but he never hit him here. How have they settled in?
Well, we know DJ is known by Richie Wellens. They both were very successful together at Swindon Town, and he's already scored on Tuesday night against Newport County, and he's looked very good. Sean Clare, I understand what you mean, that there was a mistake that he made on Saturday against Bolton Wanderers. But having said that, when he goes forward, he is very, very exciting. And he was involved in 2 of the goals that we scored in midweek to get a second round place in the League Cup. And we're going to Millwall. So we're looking forward to that one. Darren Pratley came on as a substitute on Saturday. And again, I'm sure that he would love to feature at the Valley. And of course, we're looking forward to seeing Alex Mitchell. I think you've got a really good player there. When he was at Leyton Orient, he really really did look the business, and he's only getting better and better. He's a proper old-fashioned defender. He loves the biting tackle. He's a strong player, and I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to is seeing that duel between Mitchell and the likes of Jay and Charlie Kelman, because I think it's going to be a real battle and probably a very important part. And also it's going to be very important for the O's that Zach Hemming, after that difficult start, has a good game. We know that he's a decent goalkeeper. He's on loan from Middlesbrough. He was playing at St Mirren last season. They got into Europe, but it has been a very difficult start.
And just finally, I mean, I started doing my stats for Saturday last night and picked up one that I don't know, surprised me. Obviously, I didn't watch Orient as much as you did last season, but it's the one on the bottom of the screen. Only 3 teams conceded fewer on the road than Orient last season. So, I mean, how do you expect to set up? Are you strong defensively? But I can't imagine you come and sit behind the ball. I mean, how do you see Saturday going?
Richie defends as a team. That's one of the reasons why the defence has been as good as it has been under Richie Wellens. He will see Charlie Kelman as being as important to the defence as the rest of the team. The high press is very much part of how they set up in terms of defence. Dan Happy was outstanding on Saturday. Didn't feature on Tuesday because he picked up a bit of a knock. Let's hope that from an Orient perspective that he is going to be available for Saturday, because he again is a very important player in the heart of the O's defence. It won't be as strong if he's not 100% fit.
Excellent stuff. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Charlton Live this evening. I look forward to seeing you at the Valley on Saturday. If you come early enough, come for a bit of breakfast in the Valley Cafe. I'll see you.
I look forward to that. Absolutely.
Lovely stuff. There we go. Dave, thanks for your time. See you on
Cheers.
Saturday.
Pleasure.
Dave Victor does the commentary on the Orient website and on BBC Radio London. He is an absolute legend of the local radio scene, and every Orient fan knows Dave very well. He's been through thick and thin with the O's, and it was great to have him on the show this evening. Right, let's look ahead to Saturday from a Charlton perspective, starting with the team news. Terry spoke to Nathan Jones earlier on today.
On Tuesday, resting some players completely aside from the injuries you know about. How's the squad fitness generally?
Yeah, well, it wasn't resting. I mean, it was basically utilising the squad. We've got to get everyone up to speed. We've got to get everyone in a place where they can play league games, because there's 46 league games, there's cup games in between, and so on. So we can't just continue with the 111. We have to make sure that we have a squad that's equipped to play. Injury, we're in apart from Miles, if you like. We're in a pretty good place.
Yeah, we spoke about Miles last week and saying about it feel like a new signing when he is back to full fitness. I want to mention about Kane Ramsey, who obviously joined us early in the year, but because of the injury situation, he only played a handful of games. He must feel like a bit of a new signing this season, and bearing in mind that tackle, that match-winning tackle, you could call it, up at Wigan, it shows how important he's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But we recruit. We think we've added good additions. We've had lots of players that we signed a few permanents in the window. In the January window, we signed more permanents now. So we think we've improved the squad. But everyone has to keep moving forward. There's real competition now in pretty much every area. Yes, we want to add more quality, but at the minute the squad's at this maximum in terms of numbers, so there's some work to be done on that.
Got Orient at the Valley on Saturday. We had 2 tough games against them last season. They finished above us in the league, so you'll be expecting another tough test.
I'll be expecting a tough test because it's another league game in League One. Last year I can't do anything about, in terms of stuff. So all we know is it'll be a tough game. They'll be well coached. I know a lot of people they got there. So yeah, it's going to be another real tough League One game. And
it will be the second game at the Valley, but it'll be the first game with what you'd probably consider a proper Valley crowd on Saturday. Must be looking forward to that, and the players must be looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. We love playing at home, and the crowd been excellent since I've come in. And as I said, it's the first league game there. In terms of this season, cup games are different. They create different atmospheres, different challenges, and so on. But this is a real important game for us. Second game, first game at home. So we'll want to continue that momentum.
There you go. That's Nathan Jones speaking to Terry earlier on today. Looking ahead to Saturday's game with Leyton Orient. I mean, first things first. I mean, obviously, we've been talking about where we can get better, where whatever and all that so far this season. Lewis, we're 100% record in League One. I'm sure there's a rule on how early you can say that and claim it's a good thing, but we have got 100% record to defend in League One so far this season. So there's momentum there to be built upon, certainly going into Saturday.
Yeah, 100%, and we'll be at home as well. Like we want it to be a bit of a fortress this year, don't we? And I think the crowd's going to get behind Nathan. We see what he brings in terms of his energy on the touchline. That only riles up the supporters. When he at Wigan on Saturday, when he sprinted halfway down the line to shout at someone for a throw in, stuff like that. It gets people fired up, and you see him at the end of the game with all the fist pumping and the chest beating and all that, and it does fire people up, and it's going to be great. To have that atmosphere at home. It's going to be great to be back at the Valley with everybody, seeing familiar faces, and hopefully we'll leave with 3 points. But overall, it's going to be a tough game. I think Orient last year we kind of limped past them on the opening day, didn't we? And then they beat us Boxing Day. I think it wasn't Boxing Day. It's Boxing Day this year. They beat us, didn't they? And it was fairly convincing under Apples. And it's not going to be an easy game. Richie Wellens is a great manager at this level as well. He's got them well drilled, well coached. But yeah, I'd like to think the home advantage is going to go in our favour, and the Valley's going to be rocking on Saturday.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what sort of game we do get from Orient then. So I mentioned there to Dave, Mark, about how they didn't concede a great deal on the road last season. Only 24 out of 23 league games. Not a bad return at all. Only 3 teams are better than that. But Dave speaking about high press and defending sort of almost starts from the front, I guess, which on paper sounds like it could play into our hands if we could play through it. We seem to struggle more against teams that sit. But yeah, what we would like to see is some of that creativity sort of coming to the fore on Saturday, and it'd be interesting to see how we line up against Orient and how they try and sort of stop us from doing what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the high press, I mean, we tried it against Birmingham in the second half, and they were finding outlets quite easy, especially to their left back. It's one of those ones. Do you worry about your own side or what they're going to bring? I don't know what kind of changes you'd make apart from Edwards coming back in on the left. Midfield, I'd probably go Berry for Coventry. I had me with TC. I don't know. Or you lose one of your midfielders, drop TC back and do Kanu and a had me up front if Godden's not going to be fit still. I think, like I said, though, if their goalkeeper's feeling a bit nervous, you'd be telling them to pepper him, put him under pressure as fast as you can, as soon as you can, and see if he spills one or fluffs one and work on that, because obviously that's going to, Dave spotted that and think that could be an issue. Hopefully it's something our coaches have spotted and can do as well. It's a difficult one because London derbies are always, they don't follow the rules sometimes. Sometimes there's a lot more passion. But, with a vociferous home crowd urging them on. And again, as we've already alluded to, defensively we are looking better. So it's just where that spark comes from for a goal. And that's not a worry. It hasn't turned into a worry yet. It's just a concern. It's like a spot which you're not sure what it's going to turn into, which way it's going to go. So let's hope it's just a pimple.
In the midfield, there's a couple of questions. So, all Harold at Lewis saying, does Anderson need a rest? I mean, Jake saying I'd keep the same lineup as last Saturday. Doherty and Berry, he says, are interchangeable. All Harold at Lewis says the Doc, Coventry, and Berry. In the midfield, I mean, is there any changes you'd make in that part of the pitch, Lou?
I don't think so. I agree with what Jake said. I think you'd leave it as it was for Saturday. Obviously, we've won that game in League One away from home. I think it'd be pretty harsh to make any changes there. I think Karoy, the question of Karoy needing a rest from all hell let loose. We said earlier he's got the legs. That guy doesn't stop running. There may be a point where he's going to need to rest up, but I think for now I can't see us making a change to that starting 11 because it's a winning 11. So I'd like to see. We spoke. I know you, Tom, and No spoke about Ahadme maybe having a bit of a disappointing game on Saturday. on the show Sunday. But he's going to need to come good, and maybe a home crowd's what he's going to need to get going. And if he can get up and running on Saturday, bit of confidence for him. He's going to be a good player for us. I can't see us changing it, to be honest. I think the system will stay as it is. I'm hoping that Matt Godden is fit so that he can feature at some stage, because I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can bring. But yeah, for me, I wouldn't make any changes from Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, with Godden, we're in that bit now where, of course, you'll remember last season Nathan doesn't tend to put a timeline on injuries. He's just spoken about a bit of tightness in the hamstring for Matt Godden. So if it is just tightness, well, who knows? Maybe he could play Saturday. If it's something that needs a longer rest, then we won't really know until he comes back. John says, I'd like to see Daniel Kanu start on Saturday, or Kanu as his name is now that we know. Jake says, I honestly think we're looking good defensively, even from the Birmingham game. Midfield, I think it's clear we need to find the right blend. Up top, I feel, again, we need the right two to come in up top. We need to see what Godden can do. Ultimately, we could be better with a Hadmay and Godden, or DK and Godden. Well, I guess we don't really know until we see them all together. And Callum saying, will he make an appearance perhaps off the bench? Like I say, it's just so hard to know. And John says maybe TC to come off the bench for the last 30 minutes. I mean, would you change TC up top, Mark? He's playing 3 minutes last week. Won a penalty on Tuesday, but obviously went on to miss it. I mean, would you want to switch things a bit in the front too?
Yeah, I think if I was making changes, I think he would be the change I would make, because I just prefer him out on the wing as opposed to being that striker. I'm thinking, because he can run at fullbacks, and I understand why they say give him for the last 30 minutes. Because if you're running at a tiring Sean Clare, I think that would be sort of like bread and butter for TC. Yes, they know each other, but I think that'd be the kind of thing you'd want to see. So I can understand that option being put out. I agree with Lewis. I don't think he's going to change the team at all. I think it will be the starting lineup from Wigan. It's just whether Zach Mitchell makes the bench. And if like I say, we don't know about Godden, possibly not. So if he's got a Niki and Kanu, he's not probably going to risk Godden too soon, because we know the pitfalls of having a player come on back from an injury too soon. So yeah, as it is, but I can understand TC not being there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely right. Shiny Phil says, honestly, I think we'll win Saturday. Our defence looks pretty solid. All we need is to convert a chance or two to push games in our favour now. I'm optimistic we're going to make this season count. And then John says, will we see a Sean Clare winner? Dudley says a Sean Clare blunder would be helpful. You feel like it's bound to be one of the two, isn't it? But we'll see. Isaac says, I'm a bit worried about overall fitness. 3 games in a week for the first week back will be tough. But I guess, every team in the division will have had that this week. And we'll see how we get. I think in the first week of the season we should be around, and we have got pretty much a clean bill of health, other than Godden and Lee Byrne out at the moment. So hopefully we're not in too bad a shape. Right, we're running out of time on this week's big match preview. Massive thank you to everyone who's joined us live on the show this evening. Don't forget, it's a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. The joys of the fixtures being moved around willy-nilly for TV, so just don't turn up late. And if the Blackwall Tunnel is closed, as advised by one of the comments earlier, then if you come through that way, just be careful as well. Right, massive thanks to Lewis and to Mark. Good to speak to the pair of you.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Good to see you both. So I'm Louis Mendes. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Leyton Orient. Make sure you join us live at 10 a.m. On YouTube to look back at that game. But for now, thanks for listening to Charlton Live. We'll see you again on Sunday. Charlton Live.